2011, the Social Welfare Department gave a figure of 90,495 children who lived and worked on the streets in the Greater Accra region alone. Currently, it is estimated that about 300,000 persons are living on the streets, and this figure is more than triple the 2011 figure. This shows how fast streetism is emergent in Ghana and the reason why a systematic approach is needed in tackling the menace. Well, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection says it is ready to deal with the problem, and indeed today the ministry launched the Operation Get Off the Street Now for a Better Life. It sounds like a very beautiful project, right? But just like any other law or policy in Ghana, its smooth implementation is what many are worried about. I mean, we know about so many laws and policies on children and the vulnerable, and that is gathering dust on our shelves as we speak now. We can talk about the Children's Act of 1998, which portions were amended in 2016. We can talk about the Child and Family Welfare Policy. We can talk about the Domestic Violence Act, and the list goes on. And the question then comes, why are all of these not helping to deal with the matter? The answer? Enforcement. So this Operation Get Off the Street for a Better Life, what difference will it make? Will this project address the root causes of streetism, one of which is poverty? How can we ensure that this fine program does not face hiccups in its implementation? The biggest question, exactly when can we heave a sigh of relief as a country and say we're done with streetism? I have all the answers on PM Express tonight. You want to be part of this all-important discussion? My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Don't move an inch. I'll be back. Welcome back. Streetism is on our table tonight. My guest tonight, very passionate about the topic. Bright Appiah is Executive Director of Child Rights International Ghana Office, and Susan Saban is a child protection advocate. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on PM Express. Let me begin with Auntie Susan, because they say ladies first. 300,000 persons living on the streets. How does this strike you?
It's so uncomfortable, given the fact that this fight has been going on for several years, and we have frameworks, policies, and programs that are purported to have been combating these things or these situations. In fact, streetism is a phenomenon, if it not intervened in at the right time, can fester. And we know of countries where children are being shot at like rodents on the streets because it has gotten out of hands. It is a phenomenon that can grow very fast when no one is watching, because you don't even know how it starts. And looks like Ghana is gradually getting there. Now you will see a number of children congregating at places of shopping malls, places of, street lights and some vantage places, children aged 6, 9, 10, and so on. And it's beginning to fester. Before you are aware, you have a whole generation of children whose lives and personalities have been built around the streets. And when it gets to that point, the entire security of the nation is at stake. And you have a generation of children who know next to nothing but life on the street. That becomes a real serious phenomenon for a country. So I think that if the ministry wants to do anything, it is timely, and it has to be done in such a robust manner to quickly do away with it before it gets to levels where one can do nothing.
We cannot manage anymore. Right. One of the commonest explanation you will get from government is that population is growing. Every day people are giving birth, and so it is normal to have this in our country. Should we just accept this and go to bed? That is normal phenomenon?
Yeah, well, I don't think so. In the sense that even back, way back in 1962, the country envisaged a population growth. So there's a policy. When you look at the Population Council, the law that governs it clearly shows that, first of all, the state must also regulate the population that we have, to the extent that you'd have to, even the law proposes that you have to give birth to a number of children. That is 3. And that policy was targeting people who were civil servants, because then the state wanted to also support civil servants, so that in terms of financing the education of their children and all that. So that's what we envisaged. But at the point, we lost track with that because of the various issues that we had in terms of the coup d'etat and other things and all that. So we did not follow in terms of the sequential order that we need to implement the policy. Right. But that for me is not an excuse, because at any point in time in the life of a nation, we need to do evaluation of how we want to deal with issues, especially when it's about children. Because we all know the commitment that we've made to children, and then the steps that we are taking to address it. So once we come to this level, then of course we should take the appropriate steps to deal with the issue, especially talking about streetism. It's not an issue that you can just handle it on the face value. It's a lot of commitment, because children go on the street and they live the life of the street. Therefore, if you want to bring them back to another environment, it takes you a number of years to even correct the kind of mental things that they've built around themselves in terms of the lifestyle. So if you want to place them in another environment, you have to go to the rehabilitation process very well before they would even accept that environment and all that. So once this happens, we need to take steps so that we don't get to a level where we'd have to invest money in when it comes to maintenance and reintegration and all that. So for me, it is a step that is in the right direction, but I would also be interested in how the state is going to do that. It's just, I'm not just looking at the lunch. I'm looking beyond the lunch, because it has to do with human lives. And there are certain things that we need to do to also ensure that we deal with the issue properly. So I would be interested in the how. How is the ministry going to roll out this program? Get almost about 300,000 children off the street. Off the street.
But if you look at the increase in pace, I mean, it's been very fast. Let me take 2011 to 2017. That's a spate of about 5 years. And we have from 90,000, over 90,000, now jumping to 300,000, 90,495 to 300,000. I mean, it's massive. I mean, what could be accounting for this? We know one of the major causes is poverty, but what is accounting for its fast spread is what we do not know. Do you know, Bright?
Well, there are a lot of factors that get children on the street, but basically we would say that it is poverty. But I look at it beyond the issue of poverty. I think that the one major issue for me has to do with the parental attitude towards children, as to whether indeed they want to take care of children or not, and also how the system itself responds to the needs of children. You know, because if parents are not able to do that, which of course the Children's Act says that if there's a situation where parents cannot take care of their children will be beyond all reasonable doubt, the state must step in and give that responsibility to the district assemblies to do. So if parents are not doing that and the district assemblies are not doing that, then it creates room for children to get on the street and do the kind of things that they are doing. So it's a multiple factors, but I believe that it's an issue that has to do with the responsibilities that parents need to have for our children.
But I mean, with all those beautiful laws we have the Children's Act, we have the Domestic Violence Act, we have the Family and Children Welfare Policy. We have all these beautiful laws sitting there, and the question then comes in, why are all these laws there, and why are we still facing these challenges? Auntie Susan, do we know why? What has been the challenge with implementing our laws?
Yeah, having laws and frameworks is one thing. It's not an end in themselves. They are a means to an end. So you don't just, enact laws and put in place or formulate policies and go to sleep.
Right.
It has to be linked with other processes. It has to be linked with other systems. It has to be linked with other initiatives and interventions for a holistic delivery. So you may have the laws, the Children's Act, for example, that's 1998, way back. We have frameworks, we have other laws that are supporting the Children's Act, and so on and so forth. This must go with something else. It has to go with public education. It has to go with law enforcement itself. It has to go with people sensitized and knowing the content of these laws and being able to report on cases. The public must know what to do, what not to do, an aspect of the law, and so on and so forth. There should be, you see, even before the law, you are looking at the entire society and some of the causal factors to a particular phenomenon. We have remote causes, we have structural causes, we have immediate causes, and so on and so forth. So when you are intervening, you look at all these levels. You can intervene by addressing the immediate causes. You can intervene by addressing the remote causes. You can also decide to intervene by addressing the structural causes. Poverty is a structural issue. And so if you take streetism and you want to intervene, you have to look at your resources, your capacities, and so on and so forth, to look at what level, you can effectively intervene. Because if you take poverty, for example,
right,
it's so big a thing. It is multifaceted. It is appearing or it is emerging, showing in different ways. And so you would want to look at it right from the economic point of view and some of the things that have been put in place to ensure that poverty is reduced across the board and so on and so forth. But what I am looking at right now, if you look at the immediate causes, for example, you can identify things like, dropping out of school.
Yeah,
is immediate. Because the moment a child drops out of school, the next option is going on the street or going out of the house.
Definitely.
And being on the street, that is not where a child should be. So in the first place, that's the wrong location.
It's even an infringement on the child's basic rights.
Exactly. And being on the street, it means that his teachers and mentors are the people on the street.
Definitely so.
And is out of parental guidance.
Yeah.
And so this child is nurturing him or herself.
Okay.
Independent prematurity.
Right.
You get it? So this child has become independent at a premature time. And so is not learning anything, is not being guided or guarded, is not being protected, is so exposed. And because they are not mentally mature, they imbibe anything and everything. So we are then nurturing a personality who has no values, who is not brought up within the family setting, which is the natural place that a child is supposed to be, is not in school to develop mentally, intellectually, does not have any values whatsoever, and is growing on the street with all the risks around. And so if you even want to rescue this child, and this child has already been formed with the streets, all the values on this, I won't even say values, but all the risk in the street.
On the street.
On the streets. And now you want this child, you want to rescue this child
home.
To come back home. It's a battle.
It's a really
because when a child
trouble.
falls off and you want to rescue, it takes a lot of time because it's been formed already. So I'm just looking at the three, the major causes, structural, remote, immediate. If this intervention is really going to yield anything, then we have to make sure that we are intervening at points where it makes sense.
Okay.
And make sure that it's not just the law, but it is coming holistically with social protection mechanisms, because every child is on the street for a particular reason.
Yeah.
There are those who have left home because they are in abusive situations.
Definitely.
Some are living with step parents. Some are living with single parents. Some are living in real poverty and stuff. Some are also on the street for adventurism. Some are on the street because they are they are independent child migrants from rural areas, and so on and so forth. They come and they have to survive, and so they do something. Some are also there because they are being exploited by some adults.
Definitely.
So you see this child selling or something, it's actually going, the money is going to somebody. So each case has to be dealt with, you know,
so
as it is on its own merit. So assessment must be done seriously, find out what it is that has sent this child onto the street, and must be dealt with, you know, according to whatever the problem is. You know, we can't have a one-fit-size. You know. So the laws are not working, if I should come back, because we are not dealing with the situations, or we are not adding to the law the kinds of interventions that must go with the law. That must go with the law. You know, the law alone cannot do it. Yeah.
Okay. So, of course, if we look at what you've just enumerated, it means that, I mean, there is a certain danger that streetism poses to our development. What are these dangers, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, you nurture people on the street, and the kind of behavior that they're involved in is clearly, could be armed robbery, could be all kinds of activities that they'll be involved in, because just as Auntie Susie said, they have their mentors on the street, so whatever they do is what becomes part of them. So that is the kind of danger that we will face as a nation. Then also the Department of Children and UNICEF carried out a research looking at the investment into children, especially when it comes to maintenance and rehabilitation. And it comes to the conclusion that if you'd want to withdraw a child from abuse cases like streetism, and you want to carry out maintenance and rehabilitation on that particular child, then if you want to give one treatment, what they call the dose, you spend between 500,000 Ghana cedis in doing that. But if you want to look at the treatment for a long time, then it means that you'll be spending more than 1 million Ghana cedis to do that. So in terms of the economic sense, one child, that is the kind of amount of money, burden on the state in terms of how we rehabilitate children. Right. So that is another aspect of it. So for instance, if the state want to rehabilitate and reintegrate these children, let's say, even in Greater Accra alone, it's about 300,000. Then it should tell you the amount of money that government is going to spend on rehabilitating these children. Those that government is going to be one dose, and then the other one that government is going to look at the treatment in terms of the long term. So clearly, there will be economic burden in respect to how we want to deal with this particular issue and all that. Then again, it would also show that we are raising children on the street that will believe that life on the street is a normal behavior. Therefore, they will not have mercy or anything on people, because they think that people owe them a life, so they have to take it from them at all costs. So you see them engage in all kinds of activities and all that. But basically, these are some dangers that we find ourselves in. I'm so much concerned because, just as Auntie Susan said, once you'd want to embark on such a project, you need to have everything right from the beginning in order to address the issue, because you are not doing prevention. You are dealing with the protection of the issues. You are dealing with the maintenance and rehabilitation of children who are already on the street.
And we want to do it once and for all.
We want to do it once and for all, so that they don't find the need to go back to that environment. So yes, and there are children that have been on the street for more than 3 years, and everything that they've seen for the past 3 years is what happens on the street. And there are some too that probably 1 year, 2 years. So the measure in terms of the intervention that we have to provide will differ from one person or the other. So clearly, if you'd want to deal with that, then your needs assessment or the mapping of the issue must be very comprehensive to even understand what you want to tackle. So if they have launched such a program, I believe that they may have some basic information that is informing the kind of strategy that they want to do. But even beyond that, we have the Beggars and Destitute Act, which gives 2 proposals in terms of how to deal with some of these issues. It says that, first of all, in this country, there's a law that says that you cannot beg on the street. And if you do so, you can be arrested by the police and charge you for whatever offense that you have committed in terms of begging. Then there's another component that also deal with vulnerable people and children. You know, where for children you cannot arrest them. So the law envisaged that you need to develop social intervention program to deal with it. And it puts a burden on the minister to come to design a program and say that this is what I want to do. And one of the things that the law says that the minister should do is to find a place of abode for those people. That one is so expressed in the law that no matter the intervention that you want to do, where you keep the children, the law says that you have to let the state know that I have built a shelter for them and this is where I want to keep them. Okay. Then beyond that, you can carry out all the intervention. So looking at some of the things that they've said that they are going to do, which of course, one of the things that I want to see in terms, because that's what the law says, because issues about children is a subject so far as the law is concerned. So we cannot just treat it on the face value and think that, okay, I want to do sensitization, I want to do advocacy, I want to do awareness to deal with the issue. Okay. But we'd have to look at the whole discussion in context of what the law provides and what we can also add on in terms of the responsibility that have been given to us by the law. So I'm expecting that most of the things that the ministry will do in addressing streetism should also emanate from what the law proposed that they should do. On the basis of that, then we can scrutinize whether the strategy that they want to engage is effective or it responds to the provisions of the law. Okay. Then we can make something out of whatever they want to do. Then we can place the discussion in a context. But I hope that they've done something like that. If not, I would advise that they should go back to look at the act and then what they can pick out of it to run with. Of
course. So in all of this, the laws must come to play. There's no way we can shelve the laws somewhere and decide to go ahead with another policy, because it must come hand in hand with the laws that we already have in the country. We'll be getting answers and also get some explanations from the Ministry of Gender, how they want to enroll the program and how they intend to make it successful. We'll take a break. When we come back, all of that is here on PM Express. Welcome back. We're looking at how to deal with streetism. How do we deal with it? We've just been told that it puts a very huge burden on the public purse. That means you and I should be concerned getting off all the people on the street and making Ghana a better place to live. Let's listen to the Gender Ministry, who says we have launched Operation Get Off the Streets Now for a Better Ghana. What will this mean to us? How is it going to be? Let's listen to the Director of Social Welfare at the Gender Ministry.
The issue is that we have a lot of people on the streets. And it is not only street children, it is about destitute. We have people who are begging, persons with disability, a lot of people. So it is the mandate of the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection to clear these people off the street. We are guided by so many laws. We have the Children's Act, we have the Beggars and Destitute Act, we have the Disability Act, and so many other things. So our work is to clear the streets of these people. So,
and you say you want to do those in the next 5 years?
Yes, we are thinking about 5 years because we know we have the capacity. The issue is just to go out there, map out the situation. What are the categories of these people on the street? Then we can, from there, start looking at the individual cases, how we can get each person out of the street. If it is a child who is to go to school, we will ensure he goes to school. If he has to be reintegrated, we will ensure he will be reintegrated. If in the family they are poor, that is why he's on the street, we have to go and strengthen the family. So there are so many interventions that we are trying to use to ensure that all these categories of people are off the street. We have the destitute, and we have our central destitute infirmary, and that infirmary is at Mercy, and we can send this destitute to those places. And we have vocational training institutions. We have our rehabilitation centers where you can train persons with disability. We have vocational training centers where you can train people who have dropped out of school, and they can be trained in our vocational training institutions where we have different trades. So we are also trying to link these people to other interventions. You know, the Youth Employment Agency has that. So we are trying to look at those models and ask the children, what do you actually want to do? Maybe you want to be an auto mechanic, you want to do something that is you like. Then we can link them to those places and support them to complete those programs. So those are the things, a comprehensive program for everybody.
So you heard from Daniel Nona. He's Director in charge of Social Welfare Gender Ministry. He joins us via phone on PM Express tonight. Good evening to you, Mr. Nona. We're grateful for your time on PM Express.
Good evening.
We're worried that most public programs of this nature are often launched or introduced beautifully, but its implementation becomes a problem. What different will you be doing with the implementation of this program so we don't see the usual setbacks with policy implementations?
Yeah, one thing is that we of the department, and we are under the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection. What we actually want to do is we are taking our time. It's a systematic process. One thing is that we have decided that we are going to undertake the mapping exercise of the hotspots where these problems are, where we have concentration of people begging on the street or street children sleeping in certain areas. After doing that, we want to take our time, collect data, analyze the data, meet the individual person. Gradually, it's a gradual process. We are not in a hurry. We want to do that and get them off wherever they are. They are supposed to be in homes, not on the street or wherever they are staying. So we will ensure that we collect that data and work with NGOs. It's not something that we are doing alone. We have to involve many other stakeholders, like the NGOs. We have the chiefs, and we have companies, we have our development partners, USAID, and all that. So we have a lot of people that we are going to work with. And because of that, we will do that systematically and ensure that everybody is sent out of wherever they are. They are supposed to be in homes, and that is what we are going to do. We are not trying to do an ad hoc work. So this time, we know we are on top of issues, and we want to try and do what is right from time to time, because the department with the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection are working on that, and that is our mandate.
Mr. Nona, your first phase, for instance, you explained you will be linking street persons to social intervention, and that brings the question of whether the social welfare intervention even has what it takes to deal with issues even in critical moments. How do you intend to deal with these challenges?
We have social interventions. We have our LEAP program, which we know that one is ongoing. The government is supporting it a lot. We know we have no challenge with that one. And as I'm saying, we are also looking at other interventions. As I'm saying, that we will also look for partners again in Ghana and those who are outside helping us, so that we can work together to be able to deal with this. So we have a different way of adding to what we have as LEAP that is helping people.
Does it mean that you're going to be working with the social welfare department as it is now?
No, we are the social welfare department. We are under the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, and our minister is leading us, and she knows what she's doing. So
and I'm saying that, are you going to link these persons to the social welfare department as it is now? Because we know that you have so many challenges. For example, just 3 days ago, there were two children who were rescued from a mad woman, and they needed just an abode for these children to lie in, and the social welfare department in Kumasi said they didn't have enough resources to deal with that problem. Those are the kind of issues we are talking about.
They rescued the children from the mad woman. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, but if they rescue them, they have the children's home there. I'm surprised they're saying they don't have a facility for that.
Well, that's the information we had, and they had to make do with an old lady living in her corner somewhere. She was the one who accommodated these children. So these are some of the issues that come up if this program should be a success.
Yeah, but the issue is that we have this home. We have the children's home that we usually send unfortunate children to, those that are abandoned or they are missing. So we carry them we take them to our home, where they are taken care of. Even there are other residential homes that people are operating, private people are operating. Usually we link this kind of situations to them, so that they will be able to take care of their children.
Well,
So,
can you give us timelines as to how you intend to achieve these 3 phases, so that we can be able to ask you to be accountable to these phases? You have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. How long do you intend to achieve the overall results for the project for the 3 phases, and at every point what should we achieve? Give us some timelines.
So we have try to put them in phases. We are saying from phase 1, it will take 1 year for us to do mapping exercise and start, dealing with the issues, trying to get them to their homes or linking some people to vocational training if they are young and they can do that. Some have to go back to school and all that. So we also have the phase 2. From 2 to 3 years, we will have to start working intensively about how to actually get the people out of the street and doing what is supposed to be done to them. By 5 years' time, we are expecting that the street, these problems should actually reduce a lot.
Are you just looking at taking away the people on the street right now, or you're looking at dealing with the root causes, which will not bring them back on the street?
Okay, we are also going to deal with the root causes. Some of them, especially for the children, you might realize that it is due to poverty that some of them are on the street. They can be because of behavioral problems. So we are going to look at those issues. If it is about poverty, then we are going to the family to make sure that we strengthen them. We have to look for something for them to do economically so that they can be able to support their own children. If it is about behavioral problems, then we have to do a lot of counseling with the child and also the family and help get the child back. So it is about the root causes also, because we don't have to, it is most of the time, those are on the street. Maybe it's about poverty. Person with challenges mentally, we are going to look at get them to psychiatric hospitals, let them get the treatment. Then we can talk to the communities and ensure that people know that they have to take care of their children. So community sensitization would be a major thing that we'll be doing. So
in the next 5 years, are you assuring us that we can heave a sigh of relief as a country and say that we're done with streetism?
Yes, that is something that we are looking at. And we know that everybody should be involved. The radio stations, TV stations, everybody, the communities, the chiefs, everybody. We are trying to involve everybody so that we can all help to reduce this menace on the street.
Well, many thanks to you. Daniel Nona is the director in charge of social welfare at the Gender Ministry, and he's saying that it's a collective responsibility and he wants all of us to be part of dealing with the menace, right? It looks like a beautiful project. What are your expectations of this project?
Yeah, well, listening to the director of social welfare, at least he has articulated what the policy entails and what they want to do. It sounds very beautiful. Then again, the issue of as to whether or not they have the capacity to do that is an issue in terms of the human resource and then the structural issues that we talked about. But, I will still come back to the issue in terms of the strategy that they want to do. Giving themselves 5 years to deal with the issue, for me, there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
But,
is it realistic?
Well, because if a child has spent 2 years or 3 years on the street, clearly, based on the research that have been done and what the psychologists will say, 5 years will not be enough to carry out a rehabilitation program on a particular child.
Okay.
And even if you look at what they're saying, you're going to use 1 year to do the mapping, which will mean that it's not going to be an investment into the life of the child directly, but to understand the situation and all that. So it means that even the 5 years that we are talking about is reduced by 4 years.
Probably they should have done that mapping before even launching the product.
Even doing all. I think that is the understanding that I got, because the issue, what is informing the ministry to even launch the program?
If they don't have the background.
If you don't have the background, they don't understand the issue. What is informing them to do that?
Right.
So these are some basic issues that we are, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they even want to do this within the 3 years.
Okay.
But there are 3 fundamental issues that we have to ask.
Okay.
One has to do with where are they going to place these children before they even start the intervention.
Okay.
Are they still going to be on the street whilst they do all the mapping and all that they are talking about?
Okay.
Do we have to still see children on the street? The second one has to do with what is the kind of system that are going to put in place to ensure that we don't get more children getting on the street. What is the kind of intervention that are going to put in place to ensure that? Then the research that you have done clearly shows that the street children that we have, there are some that are not from this country. They are from other countries and they are here. And based on our commitment to the children, the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, once you are a child and you are in Ghana, you enjoy certain privileges because we have totally accepted the provisions of the UN Convention on the Right of the Child in relation to how to deal with children. So the option that is available for government is either integrate these children back to wherever they are coming from, or you integrate them into your own social setting and deal with issues relating to them.
Okay. The
Beggars and Destitute Act clearly shows that when you find yourself in that situation, you'd have to provide accommodation for these people.
Okay.
It is not something that will require a strategy to do. In fact, the minister is expected to give report to Parliament on some of these things that happen, because it is statutory. It's not something that you can just say that it exists within the social environment, therefore we just want to deal with it in your own way. The law provides that there is a way that you have to deal with the issue and you have to follow it. And if there's any strategy, we expect that that strategy will still live in context of what the law provides. So that is the kind of thing that we want to see. For sensitization, awareness, and advocacy is a normal job of social welfare.
Okay.
And we don't want to just assume that the strategy that they have is enough to deal with the issue. But once that they have announced it, it will afford us the opportunity to also go into detail to see whether indeed it runs with the provision that we have in the Beggars and Destitute Act. If not, then we'll see how best we can assist the ministry to carry out some of these interventions.
Auntie Susan, how do you want this well coordinated? Because of course you have issues with how the things have been coordinated over the years and the reason why we are here, 300,000 people on the street.
Well, the question I will ask before I try to explain how I want to see it is, you know, every child is born into a family. Question is, what is happening to our family units, the family setting?
Okay.
Because look at the astronomical increase between 2011 and now. What is happening to the family setting?
Right.
Is parenting going elsewhere? Are we dealing with a generation of parents who don't seem to know what they're about? What is causing these children who are supposed to actually be nurtured in a family setting now pouring on the street and no parent is pursuing them? I am looking at, if there's going to be an intervention, then we have to be interested in the causes and the prevention, because what the ministry intends to do is the curative side.
Yeah.
It has happened, let's cure it. But it has to go simultaneously
with the preventive measures.
That's right. And possibly making sure that these children don't end up in shelters for good, because we all know per child development principles and the laws and the child and family welfare policies and things that have come up, that being in a shelter or an institutionalized child or institutionalized care is not the solution. So in the first place, you know, looking at shelters, they are supposed to be just short duration, where it's just a stopgap to look for a permanent place in a family setting, family-based, community-based care for these children. Okay. And so looking for shelters and so on and so forth, it's just a transition kind of thing. And it is not an end in itself, because children will go there and even pick up a certain. So I'm looking at balancing prevention with this curative initiative by looking at what is happening to our parenting system in this country and what is fueling this irresponsible behavior. What is fueling children just pouring out on the street and wanting to live on their own? What is it that, what systems are failing? Why is it that In some jurisdictions, a policeman will see a child, of school-going age, walking the street, and will just arrest the child. Why is it that all of us look the other way?
Oh, why is it that all of us look the other way? Very interesting question. And I think it brings back the conversation of what the root causes are. And if we don't know the root causes, and if we don't deal with the problem from the roots, then I think we're only doing curative measures, and we'll be doing it for a very long time. Let's take another break on PM Express. When we come back, we're dealing with streetism. Welcome back to PM Express. We're still looking at the way forward to streetism. We know how much it hurts our economy and the development of our country. Auntie Susan, we've already agreed and we've all admitted that if we don't deal with the root causes, we'll just be going through a cycle and come back to zero. How do we deal with these root causes?
Yeah, so I'm saying that we need both the curative and the preventive. Now, the root causes, as we have all articulated, I will put it squarely on parents. And the fact that we as a nation must begin to look for real workable solutions to up our game so far as parenting is concerned.
Okay.
Some of these children are not being maintained, and out of frustration, they pour onto the streets. So what are we doing? We have to look at, if it is parenting education, because I don't think that we have had that kind of robust education of parents and telling them the consequences
of some of these things
on the family, on the children, and on the nation of ill parenting. Another area I'm looking at is our educational system. You know, if there's a way of tightening the basic level education so that children don't drop out or that number is minimized as much as possible, we will be getting somewhere with streetism. Okay. Because my experience shows that those who pour out on the street, most of them have dropped out at the basic level and or have finished BC with nowhere to go. And on annual basis, we have a whole chunk of children, about 50% of those who go and sit for BC, poured out of the system. And where do they go? Most of them find themselves onto the street. So we have to look at strengthening and tightening our basic level education to address dropout, and at the same time making sure that there is quality. Look, when you go to the schools and there's no teacher, the child gets frustrated. The child goes and there's no seriousness. Every child, when given the right environment in school, will stay. So they drop out because they are frustrated. And when a child drops out, as I said earlier, anything is your guess. And so we have to tighten the educational system. We have to look at our parental system in the country. We have to tighten our laws by making sure that they are enforced. Why is it that a child is loitering about during school hours and our law enforcement agencies knowing very well that
everybody is watching?
Nobody talks about it. We have to begin to arrest the child, take them and trace them, track them to where we ought to. Again, we have to look at our development efforts, how balanced it is, because these children are actually child migrants from places that they feel are not as endowed. And so urbanization is also on the increase, and these children find themselves. So there are multiple causes, and we have to deal with these things per our initiatives.
And we need to deal with it case by case so that we can get it done the way we want it. We're running out of time, and right quickly, would we ever get there? Will there ever be a time from the way we are going that we can say that we are done? Streetism is a thing of the past in Ghana.
Oh yes, I have the belief that we can get to that
Will
level.
it be a very long time?
Oh yes, it will be a long time because there are issues of rehabilitation and maintenance that we have to do. That sometimes can take more than 10 years to do that. And some, because of the effect of it, you cannot even deal with the situation at all. You have to manage it. And then again, I feel that once we are able to commit ourselves to the law, we will be able to deal with it. And then also build a culture of where everybody we'll be responsible towards children, I think that we'll be able to deal with the issue.
Where everybody will be responsible towards children, I think that we can get somewhere, and already time is up, and that's where we draw the curtains on PM Express. We're hopeful that this program, Operation Get Off the Streets, will yield the needed results. Let's all contribute our quota to make it a success. Thank you very much, Bright and Auntie Susan, for coming on PM Express. Thank you so much at home for watching us. Many thanks for your time. Have a great one.